those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all
Nerds!
International. With the hyphen.
The Murder Hobo Show presents the Savage Rifter Podcast.
Oh, where are we?
Oh my god, there's a robot!
What? Run away!
I don't know what's happening.
Oh, it's like we're falling through rips in the time-space continuum.
Look how we're in the middle of water!
There's only one way through this. Are you with me?
Yeah.
We must fight.
The Savage Rifter Podcast.
Welcome to the Savage Rifter Show, episode 18. I am one of your hosts, Gary, a.k.a. the Murder Hobo, and I am here with none other than world-renowned and infamous riff superstar, DJ Jazzy Diaz.
Y'all ready for this?
The Savage Riff's G Plus community fame. What's going on, Victor?
What's happening, Gary? Ladies and gentlemen, game on. Always nice to see that wonderful face in the morning, or should I say in the evening. Gary and I have been busy, everybody, and you guys know how we do this. We're going to take some time out of our day to talk about your and my favorite game. That is the one and only Savage Riffs. I'm so looking forward to it.
I'm glad you're looking forward to
I'm
it.
shaking in anticipation, to be honest with you, because, man, gear, the first thing you start out with is armor, and because, you know, like, it's not hard enough already to do the math, so we're going to have a little lesson today, I believe.
That's good, because that's what this podcast is all about.
That's right.
It's all about the Savage Riffs. We're going to break it down piece by piece so Victor can teach me and you, the listener, how to play, enjoy, and understand riffs. Yeah, gear. Gear is it. That's what we're doing. I'm looking forward to this one because all the numbers and buzzwords are totally confusing, man. You know, you start playing with stuff and people are like, yeah, I'm going to take out the EP-77, and I'm just looking at them like, what is that? Is that some kind of grenade? Is it power armor? Is it a, you know, some kind of jungle flying machine?
It doesn't get any more difficult than riffs when it comes to equipment for a number of reasons. You've got 89, 90 world books, and every single one of them not only has, you know, characters and spells and monsters and NPCs, but it has, you know, your and my Munchkin favorite weapons and armor. And not just one or two, they've got like 30 listings in every book. So it can be a whole separate guide in amongst itself. I've tried to convert some of those over to another role-playing game on another podcast that we do. And daunting is an understatement. I mean, I stopped counting at 224 weapons.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's like the D&D manual all over, like the basic equipment manual all over again. Yeah, it can get a little insane. Just trying to convert them is just nightmare, but having to go through and play with guys who've been playing it for 9 or 10 years and they know a lot of this stuff and a lot of the stats and a lot of the guns, and they're naming off like, you know, a Wilkes 224 and an SG09 and all these other plasma guns and a rail gun or whatever and a boom gun, and everybody just knows right off the top of their head what they do in riffs. So we're over there, okay, now what are the conversion, what are the new gear rules, and well, this weapon's not in there, so which one are we going to substitute with? And it can be a real nightmare to be able to go through that.
You're making my brain hurt already.
Yeah, we haven't even mathed yet.
We haven't mathed yet. Oh, man. You know, on a bright note, it hasn't been a month since we've got a chance to hang out, which is actually pretty good. I'm super impressed. Hopefully, we can get some stuff done because I know that you're going into busy season with your deal at work there. And we can keep pumping out a few more of these episodes. Keep
they
them
do
going
let me
strong.
Out of the cage every once in a while, Gary, so we should be able to rock this out here.
Okay, well, let's do it. So let's head over to the Riffs and see what's new in the RPG community.
Hey there, Mr. Suit-wearing guy. Yes, that's me. Don't I know you from someplace before? Yeah, I do know you. What's new with you, man? Well, I suppose I can tell you what's new. From the Rifts.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to the Google Plus Savage Rifts community. I am proud to announce that we have 634 members. Can you believe it? You do have to hit the Ask to Join button if you haven't already joined, but thank you so much for everybody who's joined in on that. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please log in, put a link out to your friends. I'm looking forward to seeing some more. One of the things that you can do when you get onto the Google Plus page is talk about the projects that we're doing. And if you don't know what's happening with all the projects that we do for Savage Rifts, go check that out, because trust me, there's a lot of content in the last 12 months that we've come across. The one that we're working on right now, though, is the character showcase. I think I have 21 entries so far. Gary, can you believe that? That's a grip of stuff.
Yeah, I know. And they've all like come in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I extended that timeline. I've been getting a lot of thank yous and a lot of, hey, wait for me kind of things, because everybody's been a little busy at the beginning of the summer. But now that I think everyone's gotten a little bit of time off, they've really knocked it out of the park. I mean, Sean Masters literally just a few seconds ago posted Pruvan Yimar. He is a Lynn Serial Mars concept that he created, and absolutely just looks awesome. He's even got a little 3D miniature picture there of his Lynn Serial, so I'm looking forward to reading through that as we go through it. But there's just gobs and gobs of characters. One of the favorites, and I've talked about this like 100 times already in just the last week, Sean Masters dropping Lieutenant Carl Bruck. Man, I got to give it up to you, Sean. That is one flavorful character. I mean, it's got everything that I look for in an NPC. And man, as a player character, you've got all the things figured out. So one of the things that I asked everybody to do whenever they're going to submit something to the character showcase was to fill out the personal information, the abilities, the stats in this particular form on a Google Plus page, either in Google Docs or using the PDF. And it was very important for everybody to follow that stats, not only because it's easier for me to produce the PDF book that we're going to put out later in the year for everybody to use as their character catalog, but I also wanted everybody to kind of follow the same framework so they can kind of think about what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing for their character. A good example is there's a list of questions in the back of that packet. And there's, I believe it's 15 questions. And the first one is, what emotions best describes your character? I think those kind of questions are really intriguing, and they really get you as the player to buy into the character that you're playing with. And, well, you know, the GM's going to do his best not to kill you, but no promises, because if you haven't played Savage Rifts yet, you know it's deadly as hell. But those are a lot of great questions, a lot of good things that you can put in there. A lot of room for improvement of not only how to make characters, but also how to improve your stats, the things you're looking for, your gear, your bonuses, your penalties, all your hindrances, and everything is noted in there. So you can literally print it out and you can play with it at any table, whether it's Sean Patrick Fannin at a con, whether it's me and you online, or whether it's just you and your buddies. You'll always have that character sheet, and it's all right in front of you. There's no looking up anything. So it really, really makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Man, I'm so sad that I missed my buddy Mike's first Friday game. I spent the time, I made the character, I made a leyline walker because I want to go like full magic blasting and stuff. And oh man, Friday rolls around and it just went right over my head. I come downstairs, wow, really? And really? Like 8 o'clock at night, I was doing some stuff. I was building some things for TTS because my wife was in Portage last week. She was gone. And I pick up my phone at 8 o'clock to order something to eat, and I see this message from Mike. He's like, get on your computer. And I'm like, no! So I totally missed out on my friggin' Savage Rifts game. I'm so disappointed. Man.
Oh, that sucks. I hate it when that happens. But yeah, so the character showcase has been great, man. It would have been nice for you to be able to get that character in here. You need to write him up. You need to write up your character and put him in here, Gary. I want to see what you got.
I keep saying that, and I keep letting you down. It's like I keep not being able to get it done.
You know, I have one, so I don't feel bad because I'm like struggling to find the time to scribble down all the notes and all the different places that I have in my GM's journal for that character for Ezra Harden, the Leyline Wizard that's in there. So yeah. I think it'll be really awesome to see once we get to the end of it. Now, I haven't told Gary anything about this, ladies and gentlemen, but I am going to be extending that timeline maybe a little bit further into July, August for only one reason. Just this week alone, I've had at least 5 people ask me, hey, can I get a little bit more time? I'm going on vacation or I'm going to be gone for another couple of weeks. And I really want to give you the character and, you know, put in something for the character showcase. So keep sending them in. As long as we keep building and I keep seeing this, I may extend this in for a couple of months and maybe we'll end up being the project of the year and we'll put it all together sometime in December and get it out for the new year like we did last year.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, I think it would be cool because if we can get, you know, even if we can get another 20, 25, I really want to see 50. That's a personal goal, but I am so happy with the 20s that I've seen so far. One of the ones that really caught my eye was Sean Riker, and forgive me if I butcher your name. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But Sean, he created a character called Dr. Megalodon. Now this guy, check this out. He is a body fixer who is a shark man. So like a scientist doctor. That one was pretty cool. Yeah, you should see the picture. If you guys haven't checked this out, go out to the Savage Rifts Google Plus page and take a look at it. Just look up Megalodon. It's pretty sick. He's got some pretty good character stats in there. I want to give a big shout out to Dustin Smith. He turned me on to this Egyptian themed techno wizard that I am absolutely in love with. I told him I wanted 2, so I think I'm going to make up 2 twin characters. Was going to be like a crow-headed leyline walker, the all black feathers, and the other one's going to be a white crow headed leyline walker, and they're going to be twins. So I think it'll be kind of fun to play those guys and see how that works out. I'm not sure if I'm going to play them as adults or as kids, but either way, the concept of the picture just drew me. I'm like, oh, that is so like Atlantis leyline walker. I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of got a touch of like Dark Sun sort of feel to it. Dark Sun has that pyramid building, desert. Egyptian. Yeah,
somebody was telling me Stargate. I think it has a really good feel like Stargate used to. Yeah, with the helmets that the guards used to wear for the Egyptian god. Yeah, I think that was pretty cool. It's a good little picture. Anyways, moving on to the catalog. Like I said, there's a dragon hatchling, a flame wind dragon actually. That's one of the characters that's in there. Big shout out to Journey Jakes, man. Can't give this guy enough credit. I love the way he writes. I love the way he picks his pictures for his characters. The Tundra Ranger. There's a Huron Blue. That one is actually a werewolf glitter boy. Oh, there are no words for that one right there. That explains it all. I don't know if this is Tassar or Tazar. Either way, Leyline Walker, half elf, and the list goes on and on, guys. I mean, really, Tintin, Rain. There's Riley, Easy G. There's just a whole bunch of characters that are going to be in this book, and I'm really looking forward to putting out for everybody. So thank you if you've put a character in there. I'll make sure that I'll do my best to be able to put this into a form where you can get it printed. Definitely be including a cover and all kinds of other stuff in a big PDF, and it'll be for free. I'll put it out there for everybody to share because it's all of our work from the whole entire Savage Plus or Savage Rifts community.
And you're going to have your work cut out for you because the second anniversary of the Savage Rifts community PDF thing is going to be coming up here we're halfway through the year, buddy.
Yeah, you know what? So I think that's what I may make this one the community project of the year. It started out as kind of an experiment and something I wanted to do, and I thought it would happen a lot quicker than it did. But I know people's lives get busy. We get busy. We were just talking about that. And I think this might turn into the big community project of the year. I think it would be really cool to be able to put this together with the other one and just, with the new books coming out early 2019, I think it would be really cool. It would be really good timing to be able to see that happen. So keep turning them in, people. Keep turning them in. We are reading them.
Give us your goods.
Every day.
Give us your
give
children.
us some good character concepts. Yeah, there's some guys that have actually paid artists to draw them their character concept. Other guys have gone onto the internet and just, done some clipping of some different people, real pictures, photos, minis, just some concept art, and they've put it on there. And it all seemed to work really, really well. So do what you got to do. Get your character, submit it into the catalog, and I will put it together.
Nice. So, speaking of Sean Masters, we're really going to blow some smoke up this guy's butt because he put out a really cool 12-page Savage Rifts fan-based edges document. It is like 12 pages of edges taken from different games. There's things like aerial combatists and all sorts of stuff, but it's on there. Roll into the Google Plus Rifts community. You can check out stuff like that. This is the nice part about Google Plus too. Like the communities that are here, they have so many people creating so much content that you could just come here and just, the inspiration, the ideas are just, there's so many of them. It's insane. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree. Some of the stuff that these guys are writing, I mean, a lot of people don't realize, and if this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, welcome. But a lot of the listeners maybe not realizing that there are some industry artists, they're industry writers that work in the role-playing game industry that are on this board, that listen to this board, that listen to our podcast, believe it or not. I had found out very recently that Kevin himself, and we're talking about Kevin Simbita from Palladium Games, listens to the podcast. Yeah, that he listens to the podcast, and that he's it was kind of secondhand, but it was direct from the person who heard it, and he was telling me that yeah, I think it would be great to have him on the show, and we could talk to him about Savage Rifts and just Rifts in general and what's coming up and all the fun changes and all the fun new things that are going to be happening in the next editions and all the future books. So looking forward to getting that taken care of. So there's a sneak peek of what might be happening in the very near future. Soon as we can all get some time to get them on there. So that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, the character showcase and the community, what they generate is absolutely amazing. Some of this stuff is just really, really top-notch stuff. I just make it look pretty. I don't do any other work.
So the Any 2018 awards voting is out, and we didn't make the best podcast category, so I wasn't
expecting to, but you know, you can cross your fingers. But
I didn't. I was, you know, I got the tissue ready in case there was a tear, but you know, I pretty much figured like screw those guys, they're stupid anyway. So one thing that's really cool though, and if you haven't been living under a rock and you know you're not familiar with our good friend and lover Richard Woolcock, he was nominated for Best Free Product for Saga of the Goblin Horde. And,
shut up! Seriously?
Yeah, he deserves.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. He is a massive contributor to the Savage Worlds community. He should actually be given the award for like Savage Worlds Community Man Dude of the Year. Head over there, toss him a vote. Maybe you think Saga of the Goblin Horde stinks, and well, we don't want to hear from those people. But yeah, while you're there was I don't know if you see this in the show notes, but there's a category in there for Best Free Product, and it's called Vaginas Are Magic. Who doesn't
shut up?
Yeah, who doesn't love free magical vaginas, man? Right?
Oh wow, that is awesome! I did not know that.
Yeah, I just was skimming through them, looking at it and stuff like that. Anyways, I found the link.
Sure you were.
I promise, man. I don't know what you're getting at there, but let me see if my link works. Edit this little bit out here. Here we go. Vaginas Are Magic. Lamentations of the Flame Princess is the person I think that wrote it. And it's like a 2017 free RPG book of the day. It's a 48-page book. Might be black and white, I'm not sure. But like the tagline is feminine, anti-cosmic, nihilist magic of death. Those are too big words for me. But I kid you not, it is a real thing. Vaginas are magic.
Yeah, Lamentations of the Flame Princess. That's pretty cool. I'm looking at the other products in the category. We have Rune Quest, Quick Start Rules and Adventures by Chaosium Incorporated. Starfinder, First Contact by Paizo, which is one of my favorites. I love Paizo stuff. Their stuff. They don't know how to do bad products. Eclipse Phase Second Edition Quick Start Rules. Big fan of Eclipse Phase. Go guys. Posthuman Studios there. And then Best Free Product. The last one they have on there is Tabletop Audio, Original Ambiences and Interactive Sounds from Tabletop Audio. That one's pretty cool. I've used some of Tabletop Audio stuff before in a couple of games, and I was really impressed. The quality, the ability to be able to stream it live from any browser, I think is pretty cool. So good luck to everybody in that category. That sounds like some interesting competition there that they have for Vagina's Magic.
I hope the Magic Vagina wins. That would be awesome. So last on the list, you'll see that, did you read Dustin Smith's weekly Anything Can Happen? It's actually pretty funny this week.
Oh, that was so awesome. So if you guys haven't checked it out, go down to the Google Plus page, look up Dustin Smith, or you can look up Anything Can Happen Thursdays. That was something we started a long time ago, and he just ran with it. So the one that he just put in is he puts in little lines or little stories and tags about adventure ideas or encounter ideas. And his encounter this week is you come across a couple of swarms. They look like bees and wasps and stuff fighting one another. And as you start to get close enough, you realize that the swarms are both miniaturized sized flying power armor suits. So it's like the Coalition Samus armors versus the other flying armors. That can only happen in Rifts. That is so awesome. I don't know where he comes up with this stuff, but I think that would be really cool. Can you imagine watching them? And as you're getting closer, you're, why am I hearing booms and machine gun fire? And they're zipping past your head, and then you realize, what the heck was just that went by?
Yeah,
it's a Coalition Sky Cycle or something crazy.
Yeah, you just take them all out with like one burst or something.
Imagine a dragon like slapping his hands and breathing fire and trying to take them all out.
I mean, neat. You know, you solve the problem by taking the swarm out with one of those like electric bug zappers. You just hang it. You hang it by a tree, and they see it, and they all fly into it.
Don't give the techno wizards any ideas, dude. They'll be making those up right on the fly just to be able to do that. That would be hysterical.
That's how I'm solving the problem. All right, let's get over to the Nexus points. We're done with this section. Yeah, it's gear time, buddy. Are you ready for this? This is gonna be tough stuff.
Hold on, I gotta say a prayer and get out the calculator because this is gonna be a trip.
We'll throw on some a little bit of a jingle here. Victor will say a prayer, and we'll get right over to the Nexus points and start doing some gear stuff.
Nexus points.
Okay, here we go, buddy. This is it. This is the true test of your manliness, your mettle, your willingness to survive through the harsh environments and the worst odds. No?
You're scaring me, Gary. You're scaring me. Stop it. You're making me nervous.
Page 75, Chapter 2, Gear. We're I don't even know how far through this. We're halfway through this book.
We're halfway through the books. Ladies and gentlemen, 18 episodes, and we're halfway through the Savage Rifts Tommorow Legion Players Guide. We've got a lot of books to cover, Gary. We need to hurry so we can get through them for next year's books.
Well, that's good. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's
What
do
do we
this.
got? Let's start with armor.
All right, so yeah,
how does this work?
Gear. One of the first things that they go into immediately when they start talking about gear is in the side panel, they talk about techno wizard devices. And it's really important that we make this notation here because techno wizard devices are different than regular gear. And the reason is they run off of PPE or ISP points, which are power points, in other words. So whenever you have a gun that runs out of ammo, and it's a techno wizard device, you're going to use your own power points to be able to recharge that weapon. And every single one is going to be, it's going to have a different variation. Some guns are going to take 5 PPE to reload them for the 20 shots they need. Some are going to take 1. Some are going to take 2. It varies a lot in terms of how many power points it's going to need. Usually, though, if it's not stated otherwise, it says in this little sidebar that it costs 2 power points to energize an ammo clip for a techno wizard ranged weapon and 1 power point to power a melee weapon for 3 rounds. So if you have a lightsaber, for example, your techno wizard decides he's going to be the next Jedi and he's going to make up a lightsaber, it's going to take 1 power point for him to energize that techno wizard blade or that sword for 3 rounds. And then on the 4th round, well, you got to give up another power point to be able to do that. And that's really important because no other character can do that without literally like emptying the clip and physically changing it, changing the batteries out or the power core on your lightsaber or whatever those limitations may be normally.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
If you were a techno wizard and you made a gun, and then said gun runs out of ammo, but the combat is over, could you just holster the gun and say it had 15 power points? Do you get power points back per hour? Does your gun auto recharge, or do you always have to recharge your gun?
It depends on what the rules of either the weapon were, or if you made the weapon to recharge on its own. You do have to consult with your GM because some weapons they can. I've had my characters have PPE batteries that regenerate on their own that they've created, but the rules don't specifically state how you do that. I make the players do all the work and figure out the math and give me the concept of what they want to make. And then together we figure out how much that's going to cost. If you take a look at my Savage Google Plus page for Savage Rifts, you're going to find a project I called Project Ghost. It is a 12-page character sheet. And on one of those sheets, I believe it's page 11 or 12, it has a breakdown of the formula on how to build a techno wizard device, weapon, vehicle, equipment, whatever it may be, how much it costs, how long it'll take you to do that. And then you just pick the abilities that you want. One of them could be give it the regeneration spell and it'll regenerate PPE. or if you want it to regenerate its own armor, so the armor will eventually get, go back to normal, or it'll grow back. You can put that in there and then it'll regenerate points. Sit down and figure out the math and the details with your GM, and you're able to put it all together in a fairly short amount of time. That cheat sheet really helps. So take a look at that if you haven't already, but you can go through and talk with your GM on how you're going to put that together. So it all depends on how you built it. Did you buy it custom that way? Did you make it custom that way? And if it doesn't say, then it doesn't happen right there right away. You know what I mean? It doesn't exist. That's usually how I play it. If it doesn't say somewhere in the pre-existing rules, the Palladium version, and there's nothing in the description in the manuals now, it's a custom item, and you'll have to make it, break it, or change it in order to get it to work. But it's possible. You can easily have it to where it'll regenerate over time, but it's not going to happen like you're going to be back to a full clip in an hour. It'll probably take a little bit longer than that, because I believe regeneration, even some of the best regeneration, is only going to give you like a wound every day, maybe. So even if it reloads, it may take 24 hours before you can, before it fully reloads, before you can use it again.
Yeah, I just kind of figure it might be some wireless charging or something like that.
Well, it could be. It could be a good example of how you can create a backpack that recharges your Techno Wizard devices, and that could be a separate item in and of itself. But you won't be able to use it until it's fully charged. It's not like your cell phone. You can't turn it on until it's at 50%. You need it to be at 100 before you can begin to use it. I would put that limitation in, and that's only me as the GM, just because it kind of levels the playing field. So you're not always, you'll always have ammo pretty much.
Do they have cell phones in Rifts?
Yeah, they do. They have they have cell phones.
Stuff,
they
right?
have communication devices, radios. Yeah, really, little micro earpieces that you can wear that can give you like a 1 or 2 mile radius. The thing you've got to remember though is that a lot of the time, if you're in parts of the world that don't have civilization, there are no cell phone towers. There are no satellites. You don't have line of sight to the antenna. And, it's not. You're going to get static. Nothing's going to happen.
So what if you were a techno wizard and you made like a gun cell phone, and then you went to answer it and basically just blew your head off? Or you know what I mean? Like you get really mad. You remember back in the old days? Well, you would remember because we're old, but do you remember the old phones and you used to be able to slam them down when somebody, And that's,
so when they run out of charge, you can use them as a weapon because they weighed like 15 pounds or something.
Hey, your cell phone, somebody calls you on your cell phone gun, and then you get mad at them and you just fire it to turn it off. Just blam, blam, blam.
Let me put you on hold and you kill the person.
So dumb.
Happens. So yeah, that's kind of cool that they put that there, only because it's really important that you differentiate which weapons are Techno Wizard weapons and which ones are not, because of that PPE. Because Techno Wizard weapons cannot be recharged by anybody but a Techno Wizard. A Leyline Wizard can't do it. A Mystic cannot do it. And just a Techno Wizard. And it said specifically in that first column on page 76. Take a look at the first column of the Techno Wizard devices on page 76. Just as soon as gear starts, that's kind of an important clue on how you want to be able to recharge your stuff. On the second note, that same column, it does say that Techno Wizard devices suffer from technical difficulties. And that is a special rule, a settings rule for Savage Rifts on page 122 of the same book. And that rule specifically states, you apply this to any trait roll where gear is involved. Whenever the device suffers a critical failure, you're going to roll a d6 and you're going to consult the difficulty table, the technical difficulty table. And there's 3 different effects: glitch, serious problem, and severe failure. And it gives you penalties to trait rolls, and it makes it more difficult to be able to use that weapon. So much so that it might not even be worth using it until you can get it repaired. 2 kind of important points there, starting out the entire gear section. And like I said, gear is where all the math is. This is where we start talking about toughness, armor piercing, penalties to agility and trait rolls because you don't know how to use power armor or pilot robot armor. And some of the basic equipment that all body armor and power armor have, in addition to the bonuses that a lot of those armors give you. And not to mention the strength requirements. You got to be strong enough to be able to wear the armor and carry it around and act in combat with it. So we'll start right at the top, going into body armor on page 77. Now, body armor covers pretty much any kind of riot armor, coalition armor. The Huntsman power armor is a good example, or just basic survival armor, stuff that you need to survive. So you would probably get, shin coverings, a breastplate of some type, and forearm coverings with shoulder pads and a helmet. More than likely, that is the generic body armor of a lot of survivalists, a lot of people who expect combat. Heck, in Rifts, that's everyday underwear. You make sure you have that on if you want to survive it all, because you never know what's going to come at you. Miniaturized power armor. So body armor. Now, one of the things that body armor does do is it does cover all the locations regardless of what you have on. Sorry, let me try that again. That was my phone going off. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was my phone. All right, so one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that when you read through the body armor section, you make sure you take a look at all the environmental protection that it has. Some body armor provides you environmental protection. Some body armor does not. It should say specifically under each one. If it does not say that, you do not get that benefit. And by full environmental protection, I mean that it is a sealed system with a breathing apparatus, immune to temperature extremes, radiation, vacuum, poison, disease. It pretty much has a life support system. You could go into space as an astronaut in one of these things, and it's meant to be durable like that. So if it doesn't say specifically in the rules, it does not have full environmental protection. And we're only talking about body armor at this point, folks. So moving on, another one of the things that it covers is that all body armor has certain basic communications, basic electronics. It goes through and specifically says they all have basic comms for 5-mile range, light sensitive visors or lenses. Those offset the penalties by 2, and they provide you a +2 to resist blinding attacks. Each suit of body armor has a strength minimum as well. In other words, you need to be able to have a strength characteristic of at least this amount in order to be able to wear the armor. That doesn't mean that you can't put it on and walk with it. This means that you need to have that strength characteristic in order to be able to get into combat with it, jump a fence, run through a ditch, swim in it, that kind of stuff, because it's very difficult when you're wearing body armor. If you don't have the strength and endurance to be able to fight in it, it's not going to be very effective for you in terms of your own defense. So besides the strength minimum, there's also, it goes on to discuss the penalties. Anytime you have body armor on, you're going to suffer a -1 to all your agility rolls, all the agility link skill rolls, as well as your pace. A lot of people don't realize that whenever you put on body armor, not only does your agility rolls suffer, but your pace suffers as well. And that's only if you don't meet the strength minimum. So, you're slower, you're not as fast, and you can't move as fast as someone else who meets the strength requirement for that. Now let's go into a perfect example of it. There's a picture of a Huntsman lightweight personal armor right on the page 77, and it's a good example of what the basic armor is for them. Let me see where that's listed on.
Does it look very bulletproof? She looks like she's wearing like pants and a shirt, and you know what I mean. Like if you shoot her in the shins, she's not going to take any damage because she's got these great big leg things on. But I mean, other than that, it doesn't.
A lot
really
of the time, body armor isn't just the hard armor. There's also soft armor, like the Kevlar and the ceramic suits that go underneath it or that are connected to it. So you can see the top part of her or the upper arm is cloth, and her upper thigh is cloth too. But that might be ballistic cloth. It might have some laser and or energy resistance as built into the suit already as a soft fiber. So remember, time has advanced a lot. So has materials, and so has wartime. So with that, a lot of the characters are going to be wearing some really high-tech stuff, high-tech protection that doesn't have to be hard armor necessarily in order to provide them the protection that they need. Remember, this is only body armor, and even nowadays we have some body armor, that soft armor, that's pretty impenetrable by most ballistic weapons. And they've got to put up with a lot crazier stuff in Rifts to be able to survive the day.
Man, I would not want to get hit by a bullet wearing a shirt, even if the shirt was bulletproof. That's gotta hurt like freaking crazy, man.
Yeah, some people I've known a few cops, and on a friendly note, not because I've been arrested or anything.
Yeah, right. You're you're the kingpin of Arizona, Mister.
Yeah,
we know.
If you believe that, yeah. Don't believe me. Anyways, I've talked to a few cops, and they've said I'd rather take a real bullet than get hit in the Kevlar, because it hurts that much. It just leaves a big old bruise, and you're like incapacitated. You can't even move that muscle because it's just in shock. It leaves you that way for a while, like months.
Have you ever been tased, Victor?
No, not that I'm willing to admit to.
No, we should put that on the list of things. Maybe next year at the next convention, I'll come down, we'll buy a taser, and I'll tase you. How's that sound?
Only if I get to tase you first.
No way. No, I'm out.
We'll call Frank in for that one.
I don't think I have enough clothes, or you know what I mean? Like, I would probably not only poop myself, but I'd probably like insta whiz and
Whee!
Yeah.
Now that's a sight we're going to see. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be selling tickets for that next year, so listen in for that episode. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the body armor that you can talk about in terms of the minimum qualities and the communications, the eye lenses or the sensitive visors. That's always cool. But the real meat and potatoes of it, it all comes down to the enhanced toughness. That's what everybody's looking at. They want to make sure that they can get as much armor piercing value or toughness value put into that as much as possible. Now, I was doing a little research on this because, yes, ladies and gentlemen, this gets deep. You want to talk about a lot of dice and a lot of stuff to do in rifts. The AP value, the armor piercing value, and the toughness. This is a question that has gone round and round. I don't know how many times, not just in Savage Worlds for Savage Rifts, but in Savage Worlds in general. This has been on the boards. I literally typed in toughness, armor piercing, Savage Worlds, and I got like 60 hits in Google just earlier today. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I did find one that I think was pretty succinct. It's 3 pieces. On the first part, this gentleman, he goes by the name of Dentris on the Savage, on the PEG forums. That's Pinnacle Entertainment. And he says toughness is usually shown like this. It's shown as a number, which is 12, and then 4 in parentheses. The first number is the total toughness, and the number in parentheses is the armor value. So that character with a toughness 12, parentheses 4, has a toughness of 16. It's a combination of the two, right? So he goes on to state, number 2, when attacking with a weapon with armor piercing, add the armor piercing value to the damage roll, but no more than the armor value of the target. So if your armor piercing is greater than your armor roll, or your armor protection, excuse me, which in this case is 12-4, the armor is 4. If you have an armor piercing of 4 or more, no matter how high your armor piercing is, you're only going to add up to that value to the damage roll. So let's give an example, and he gives one. 3, for example. Let's say you attack the 12-4 target with an AP3 weapon. Okay, so the target has armor toughness of 12-4, and you have a weapon of armor piercing 3. You're going to roll damage because you did hit, and add 3 since it's lower than the armor value. If you attack with an AP8 attack, which is an armor piercing 8 attack, add 4 to the damage roll instead of 8 because you can't bypass more than 4 points. You have that look on your eye, Gary. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've stunned him.
There's not going to be a quiz on this, is there?
It's like doing calculus in high school, wasn't it? Yeah, so I think a lot of people don't understand that concept on how to do armor piercing calculations. That's a quick way to do it. It kind of works out in the end. It's a little different than what everyone is used to, but I really like the way he put it, and it makes it a lot easier to be able to calculate when you're attacking with a weapon with an AP value. You just add the AP value to the damage roll, no more than the value than the armor value of the target. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to remember and a tough one to process, especially when you have 6 different individuals at the table and you've got 13 different enemies that they're fighting, all with different armor piercing values. It can get a little tricky. One of the things that I like to do is I like to put all of my enemies on a card, and it's the basics, just the stats, the armor piercing value, and the damage of their weapon. And I use that, and I go through some quick math and figure it out as we're going throughout the game. Yes, we fudge rolls sometimes, and yes, we make mistakes as GMs, but it's all in good fun. It's all part of the game, so to speak. And I've yet to see anybody who can just throw that stuff out there like that. There's a couple of guys I know that are good at it, but even they have to sometimes stop and go 3 + 2, half the vigor 3. Okay, you you did it.
The problem with riffs, I don't have enough fingers to play riffs. In Savage Worlds, I'm usually dealing with toughnesses of, my toughness are like 6. So if I got
9 toes.
Yeah, right. So I'm good. I could do that on my hands. I don't have to take my shoes off at the gaming store to to play a game.
Yeah, no, you're right though. In regular Savage Worlds, you don't have to have. I mean, you don't get that high of a toughness. But I think we were just talking about this last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, or 2 episodes ago, where we were talking about the toughness on a glitter boy, and the number was like 24. Like, that's absurd to have a toughness of 24. Like, what are you going to do? And then you start looking at armor piercings and multiple hits, and glitter boy rounds and all kinds of other stuff out of the boom gun. So you're easily going to be able to defeat that, or at least defeat the armor piercing and the toughness of the target to reduce it down enough to where it makes a difference. But yeah, there's a lot of different body armors in there. There's everything from the Cyber Knight light armor. Everybody knows the Cyber Knights. They have light, medium, and heavy armor in there. Plastic Man, the Assassin Plate armor for juicers. They have the NGRA-15 Cannonball, which is it's a special type of protected gear for hover cyclists, the guys who fly around in the hover cycles. Those are pretty cool. The NG Peacekeeper, the Bushman full composite armor, and that's one of the ones that we were talking about before. So see here, it says in this one, the Strange Frontier Designs, which is SFD, the name of the company that makes it, makes the Bushman, and it provides +5 armor, +1 toughness, and full environmental protection, and has a strength minimum of D8. So on your character, you have to have at least a D8 in your strength, and you're going to get +5 armor, +1 toughness. In addition to the 5-mile comm system that's built in and light sensitive visors. And in this case, this one does provide full environmental protection. So yeah, you're going to be pretty good to go. You can take a hit from a lot of things. Maybe not some of the bigger weapons, but you're definitely going to be able to save yourself a wound or two if you get into some trouble.
Yeah, that's a cool looking suit too, though. It almost looks like power armor, but that's just body armor.
Yeah, it's fully enclosed body armor, full composite armor. It's all from composite ceramics, plastics, light steel, plastisteel, aluminum frame, that kind of stuff.
So all
really
of these
cool
ones
stuff
that say TW beside them, those are for Techno Wizards?
Correct. Those are Techno Wizard.
Okay. And
or
then
they have the option to be turned into Techno Wizard suits. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, I totally know what you're saying. So in this book, all of these different things that you're talking about here, basically every kind of gear has different bonuses by the looks of it. So this is one of the rare situations inside of Savage Worlds where you have sort of like a plethora of different skills. Like this gladiator combat armor is +6 armor, +1 toughness. It has a minimum strength, and it's worth so much. And then you go to other armors will give you powers like dark sight and far sight powers and stuff. Those the combat mage armor does stuff.
Right.
And what does it say here? So it requires that you put 1 power point per hour in it to function. Well, that's cool. You got to charge this thing up.
Yeah, if it's a Techno Wizard device, the Techno Wizard version, you have to charge it up in order to be able to use it. Just like a melee weapon, or just like an empty clip for a Techno Wizard pistol or whatever. Yep, it's pretty cool. Another good example is the one that's on the top of 79, NGEX10, the Gladius Light Exoskeleton Battle Armor. This is equivalent to a lot of the Coalition body armors. Northern Guns attempt to blur the line between body armor and power armor. This is about as tough as a regular battle armor or body armor that you can wear is the Gladius. So, okay, this one runs on an integrated rechargeable battery. Power armors usually run on miniature nuclear fusion power plants. This one, don't say that too fast. But this one runs off a rechargeable battery, so it gives you +7 mega damage capacity armor. That's body armor.
Wow.
Okay? Mega damage capacity body armor at 7, and I think that's about as high as I've ever seen it. It gives you +2 toughness, it's full environmental, and it grants you D12 +2 strength and +2 pace. So you're not only faster in this thing, you're stronger in this thing because of the light exoskeleton built in under the armor. It's almost like Iron Man armor, but it's not powered. It's just kind of it's got a low power to it. Mm-hmm. So while it is powered, it ignores the D-strength minimum for the physical actions. So if you have someone who's really weak or maybe doesn't have the strength requirements, Leyline Wizards, go grab a Gladius Light Exoskeleton Battle Armor. This will be a pretty good start to something you'd want to do. The only issue with the suit is, and of course, there's always a caveat, it's restricted to 96 hours of continuous use. So if you're lucky, you get about 3.5 days before you have to recharge the battery. And that can take up to 2 hours plugged into a generator, an electrical power source, or some type of, nuclear generator or something like that. Or if you can swap out the batteries, that might be another option for you. If you have an operator or a techno wizard, you might be able to get them to switch that over to PPE. Or if you have an operator, you can just get them to swap out the batteries for you. Maybe not hot swap them, but hey, that's between you and your GM.
So there's a company, CNS Crusader Heavy Combat Armor is created by a company called Chivalry and Sorcery. Then it doesn't say who the ED is, or the ED5, if that's a deal. But the NG now is Northern Gun, so that's another company that makes different things. They make suits of armor and stuff. And you've got the Strange Frontier Designs.
Correct.
Is there other? So with Triax?
Oh yeah,
Triax.
Oh yeah, Triax. Triax is really big. They've got lots of great power armor, lots of great high end. I would say Triax is the high end body armor. Those are the expensive Cadillac versions. Whereas the Frontier, the Huntsman armor, the SFD Huntsman, that's probably on the beginner's end. The Bushman's on the lighter end of it too. Some of the Techno Wizard stuff like the Cyberknight light armor, that's pretty unique. You'll have a hard time finding those, but Cyberknights can build those for you. Of course, the ED5 Plastic Man, that's on the low end. That's the very basic armor. You're getting full environmental protection plus 4 armor, no strength minimum. It's all made from a high density polycarbonate plating. So yeah, there's all kinds of Triaxes there. There's the Urban Warrior, the UW3C. That's tactical armor. That's pretty intense stuff. Plus 5 armor, plus 1 toughness, full environmental protection, but you do need a strength minimum of D6. That's pretty common with a lot of like adventurers, urban warriors, security services, bodyguards. I would say the Urban Warrior Tactical and the Bushman are probably the straightforward. This is what everybody starts out with. And if you remember, we were going through the character class earlier in the year. Every single one of them, I think, either had an Urban Warrior or a Bushman body armor that gave you like +4, +5 to your character's protection. So that's pretty standard armors. But yeah, and this doesn't even begin to cut the boat. I mean, this is just like 5 of them, 5 of the 16 companies that create them. And we're not even talking about the aliens or talking about the demons and other phase worlds and other dimensions where you can go out and buy stuff at the Atlantis marketplace. And you can get into some fun equipment when you start chasing that boat.
One of the big things about playing games, especially Dungeons and Dragons, is it can be very sort of loot based. Like when you're playing D&D, it's always like, let's loot. My question would be, some of this armor, like this combat mage armor, it says is like £9, 250,000 credits. Here's my question to you. Let's say that your party, you're setting up an encounter or something like that. Do you put expensive armor on your encounters or whatever, not on your PCs, but on your NPCs and stuff like that, and then let them like loot it? Because it just seems to be like, 250,000 credits seems like a lot. And you come across one combat mage and all of a sudden you're rich. Why would you adventure ever again if you had all that money?
That's the whole point of the adventure, isn't it? It's just like the Hobbit. Why did they go into the mountain to fight the dragon? Have you not seen the pile of gold he's sitting on? It comes down to one thing, and it's just greed. If you look at it from the character's perspective, it's the ability to be able to not only get involved in the story and in the into what's happening in the world, but it's that energy, it's that adrenaline rush, that energy junkie that they become. They want to get into fights all the time. That's where a lot of juicers start, and they end up juicing just so they can be better at it. But they get greedy. They want to make more money, and then they realize, oh my God, to live the life of an adventurer costs 1 million credits a day. Okay, so how many Leyline Wizards am I going to kill today to be able to make up that money? But you know what? A lot of the times, whenever my characters do that, that's usually a big score after a few weeks or a few months of like starving, running at, trading weapons in for food. We got to get the car fixed. Let's go rescue the town, and we burn up all our ammo, and it costs just as much money to fix the car as it does to get more ammo. So now what are we going to do? And it's just a perpetual cycle. But as a GM, that's one of the challenges in playing Rifts. What happens if you meet that one techno wizard that is, or that one mage that has Techno Wizard combat armor, does he jerry rig his armor so it only works for him? Does the operator or the glitter boy who you just took down, does he have his armor mined so whenever someone but him gets in it, it explodes or kills the person on the inside?
That would be
does it
awesome.
have a kill switch, yeah. Yeah, talk to me about the werewolf and the glitter boy. That's how I would get rid of him as a GM. That'll teach him.
Yeah, you found his
you're
sweet
better.
armor. Hop in. Kaboom.
Next.
Oh, man, just pink mist. That's all you get.
Yeah, you have to be really careful because it can be such a loot-based game. I know I think about it a lot on what my PCs have and what my PCs need. A lot of the times when I don't know, I ask the players, hey, what are you looking for? I know you're a Techno Wizard. Are you looking for a staff? Do you want Techno Wizard armor? What's the goal here for loot? And I try to include that as part of it. But, part of the job is just like life. Nothing's ever going to go just the way you thought it was going to be. Oh, you found the staff, but it's missing the stone that you need to power it. And it only works with that stone. Or, yeah, you found some Glitter Boy armor, but it's rigged to blow. You have to find a Techno Wizard, or you have to find an operator or a mechanic or a power armor site, or you can drag this thing over there and they'll repair it for you. Or they'll take off the explosives without killing you. Or then they come up to you and say, oh, well, we need a certain amount of money or more weapons or certain materials to be able to defuse this, or you have to go find this hacker who can break in and turn it off. And that all turns into an adventure in and all of itself. So if you've never played Rifts, or you've never played that kind of game where the numbers can just go crazy in terms of credits and power and weapons and all the other stuff that goes with it, always keep that under consideration, because it's always a fun little hook that you can get your players to go chase after that dragon.
Now, could you wear body armor inside of power armor?
No, you cannot, because power armor is fit for every wearer. It is too tight to wear body armor. The best you could get away with is maybe a skin-tight scuba suit, anti-ballistic or Kevlar, or some type of protective sheath that you could wear on your body before you got into body armor. And that's the most I've ever let any of my characters in any of the games. In regular Rifts in the old days, or even in the new Rifts campaign that we ran, I had a guy who was in what was it? The one that has the wings. It looks like a power armor with really big, long wings. Anyways, he wanted to wear body armor under his power armor. I told him, no, the suit's too tight. And he figured out a way to get some Techno Wizard armor that the wizard of the Techno Wizard of the group would recharge it for him. And he wore it underneath, but he went through hell and high water and like 5 million credits in order to get the equipment and the stuff he needed to be able to build it, because I wasn't going to let him just get away with that extra armor. And even then, I think I only gave him like a +3 to his armor base in addition to the power armor. But I told him it only comes into effect if they pierce or they damage you through the power armor first. So talk to your GMs, players. Anything is possible. You just got to figure out how you want to play it. That's how I would handle it. I don't recommend it for everybody to do it that way, but figure out a way that makes you happy and that keeps the story going. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, so body armor is something that you would wear, and power armor is kind of like something that wears you, is pretty much like an easy way to explain
that's
it.
a really, really good way of putting it. Totally agree with that.
Because you get into it, and that's the difference between the two. You slap body armor on, but you actually get inside a power armor suit.
That's correct.
Now,
yep. That's
how many different kinds of power armor suits are there that we got to go through?
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got through 5 pages of body armor, and if you think that's a lot, man, open up the rule book for the old Rifts game. That'll show you how much armor there is. But for power armor, there's quite a bit, actually. There's probably more power armor than there is body armor and the variations that go with it. In this particular case, there's only a couple of pages, but same rules apply, right? Most power armor has full environmental protection, unless it specifically says otherwise. And I know of very few, and I mean like 3 power armor that do not provide full environmental protection. So in other words, you're fully sealed. You are, hard suit astronaut. You could go into space underwater. It provides oxygen, life support, all kinds of other stuff for you in there. You would have an advanced communication system. So instead of the regular 5 little, CB radio that you have built into the helmet of the body armor, power armor gives you a 20-mile range and up to 500 miles if you have access to a dedicated relay system. So this is where I was saying there are no satellites. There is no cell phone towers. unless you have access to that system, in other words, the only way you would do that in North America is for someone wearing power armor could hack into the coalition transmitters that send across all the military channels and all the radios and everything else, hack into that to be able to get the 500-mile access to the relay system. That's the only time I've ever let my players. Otherwise, it's site-to-site 20-mile range, very similar to a high-powered radio. Mm-hmm. You also get a full sensor suite with a heads-up display readouts, and they give you +2 to notice checks and a 360-degree radar, thermal imaging, night vision, optics with 50 times magnification, audio pickups that can catch a whisper at 100 yards, onboard combat computers, targeting systems, pretty much Iron Man stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool. The nice thing about it is all that stuff does add up to something. It gives you a -2 shooting penalty offset. So in other words, you can take up to -2 penalties for range for multiple attacks or whatever. And the combat computers take over and they help you do that by getting rid of at least 2 of those. So when you're in a power armor, it allows you to be able to do multiple attacks in one round at a long range or at varied targets, which is very difficult to do in Savage Worlds because you get like a -6 for all of those, 2 or 3 attacks. 2 different targets, different long range, short range, whatever it may be. But at least the combat computer will reduce that from -6 to -4. So at least it makes it possible, because even if you have, 1 dice that explodes once, there's a pretty good chance you can roll an 8 to get you the 4 that you need to hit that target number to be able to hit a guy, even with the -4 penalty. It just gets kind of crazy math, but it's all the same math. It's all the same formulas. It's just like Savage Worlds, only you have to just do a little bit higher is all. But it gets pretty complex. I mean, power armor is pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, I see that these things run off miniaturized nuclear plants.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm assuming
they go boom when they explode too.
Do they? Is that a thing?
Mine do. Oh yeah, mine do. Like I take at least usually the smallest, not the smallest, but the largest template, the Glitter Boy blast template. The big one. And I usually like anything under that. That's the middle of the armor. Anything within that blast radius, yeah, kiss it goodbye because it's not coming back. You're gonna have to make some rolls and do all kinds of fun stuff.
I guess essentially, you take 4 wounds in your power armor. You fail your incapacitated roll and you die, and that's basically how you sort of write your characters or your players out of the story. Suit explodes, pink mist, you're done.
Sometimes it all honestly depends on how they die. One example was I had a Cyber Knight who got infected by an alien bug that crawled up into his brain, and he started doing evil things. And the characters were told to hunt him down because they thought he had gone rogue, and they found out what was really wrong with him. So he escaped. Well, the next thing you know, he ambushes them a few days later while they're trying to hunt him down. And he decides to go after the Glitter Boy because, biggest target, easiest to get to. The Cyber Knight's a hand-to-hand specialist. The Glitter Boy has short-range disadvantage. So he decided to sneak in, close in on the Glitter Boy while they were fighting and distracted by something else. He gets in on the Glitter Boy, gets a couple of really good critical shots in on him. Next thing you know, the guy in the Glitter Boy's going, dude, that's my 4th wound. I just rolled. I'm out of bennies. I can't soak anymore. As he had taken like 8, 9 wounds at a time, he starts sucking up all his bennies, making the rolls. And he already had a couple of wounds on him, and he took a couple of wounds because of it. The Cyber Knight just literally Swiss cheesed him with the Cyber Knight sword.
Nice.
And, so the armor wouldn't explode. In my mind, he wouldn't explode because it didn't take enough of an impact. He didn't pierce the generator. He was going after the guy inside, cutting up under the arms, cutting in between in the waist and the weak points behind the knees, really going after critical points in the armor where he could make the most damage against the guy inside. It wasn't that he wanted to salvage the armor, but that would be one way you can approach that if someone wanted to attack someone and not blow up the nuclear power core. But on another note, I had another guy, and it wasn't a Glitter Boy. It was a guy who had stolen a Samus power armor from the Coalition. They decided that they weren't going to let him get away with it. And they used a Spider Skull Walker and both of the rail cannons on the sides to pinpoint him down in midair, and they shot at him. And of course, what did I do? I aced the roll, like 4 times in a row. I rolled like a 30 something. It was absurd. So he starts going through and he starts doing the same thing, starts reducing down, starts spending some bennies going through. He says, I still took like 5 wounds. I can't survive it. And I told him, you see a second sunset in the distance as you hit the mountain, because he just, explodes in a ball of fire, just a big old explosion where they hit the engine. They just put a big old hole right in the center of the armor. And well, you're not going to survive that. That's going to go right through the nuclear fusion reactor and you're done. So, and he was done. That'll teach him to steal armor.
Insane.
Yeah. So it all depends, right? You have to play it in the game. If someone attacks you with a high-speed railgun, a multiple cannon that does a lot big array, or something like mini missiles or regular missiles from a boat or a plane, those are pretty intensive explosions that do a lot of, you can't really control where the damage is done unless the target is like really huge or something. So in those cases, I would say you will very unlikely survive. But there's been other times where, a good old-fashioned trident to the throat of the armor and it goes right through it and you're done. The armor won't explode. It just collapses, full of blood or whatever. Or, you nuke it with you put some mines on the inside to kill the guy on the inside, turn it into just a can of explosions on the inside. Wouldn't destroy the armor necessarily. That might not be the intent of the person who rigged it. But it all depends on how you want to play it out. Something really important to think about when you're trying to take your characters out.
And there's
fight,
no
how you're going to finish it.
Yeah, you can't use magic or psionics inside these suits. So you're
right.
Just basically you are the suit or you become the suit on the outside.
Right. It doesn't work. It's really important that I clarify that, Gary. And it's a very good point. You can use psionics on yourself in the suit. You can use magic on yourself in the suit. But the suit creates a hermetic seal and it disconnects you from the outside world. So people on the outside have to go through the suit with magic or psionics to affect you. And you cannot affect anyone outside the suit with magic or psionics. It kind of creates a block, like a lead wall between you and your target, and vice versa. They have to go through the armor in order to make it happen.
Okay, I was under the impression that even if you were like a psionicist inside the suit, you couldn't use magic because you're not connected to the outside world.
A long time ago, I used to think the same thing. And I had a guy who played a master psionic. He was not the blaster, but the mind melter. And he had taken the power regeneration. And he was in power armor. And he's like, he wasn't a Wolverine character, but he had that level of regeneration, like, the high-end one, the one you can roll like every hour or something and you get a wound back. It was absurd. He saved his butt many, many times. And one of the things that he was doing was in the power armor, and he had taken some damage, bruised ribs, maybe a shot through the leg or something. And he was telling himself, well, can't I just regenerate wounds? And I told him no, because psionics don't work outside the armor. And he's like, but I'm not outside the armor. I'm inside the armor. And then the light bulb hit me. Sure, if you're a magician, or not a magician, but a wizard of some type of mage, or if you're a psionicist, why couldn't you cast spells that impact you on the inside of the armor? So to some extent, I did give all those characters some leeway to be able to cast spells on themselves. And it had to be spells that only affected them. A good example where I did not let them do that was mage armor. I did not allow them to use magical shields or magical armor to help create another barrier inside the armor of the power armor. And that's only because it's too tight. There has to be some space for that to happen, and you can't get that shield to generate outside of the power armor field. It just doesn't. It gets in the way. All that metal, all those alloys, all that energy, and that nuclear fusion reactor on your back, it all gets in the way of you being able to use that. So that was an exception to that rule. So I don't always allow it, but I do allow some other powers like regeneration or night vision, where you can see at night, stuff like that. I would allow some of those in some cases, especially if it's really a part of their character. And in the case of the mind melter with regeneration, that was his whole point. He's like, I want to be able to walk into a room, take 60 bullets, 30 wounds, and walk away.
Yeah. Have you ever let somebody start with power armor? At a novice level? Do you know what I mean?
If you can start with a glitter boy, why can't you start with the regular power armor?
Fair point. Just thought I would ask.
No, I mean it makes total sense for you not to be able to, especially if you're like a mercenary or some type of bodyguard, or you're an adventurer or whatever. Yeah. Now I won't let everybody in the party start with power armor, but say like there's a couple of mercs, a ley line wizard, and a burster. If there's no glitter boy, sure, one of the guys wants to take power armor. Be like, yeah, trade in all your equipment, give me all of your money, and you now have power armor. And he was like, yeah, cool, that's cool. And he turned out to be the tank and the firepower point for the entire group, because they really needed that heavy weaponry, quote unquote. He had a lot of mini missiles and this one like a laser out of his forearm I thought was really cool. I don't remember the armor, but yeah, sure. That was just the last time that I allowed somebody to do that. I let it happen more often than not. I even had like smaller groups where I played 3 or 4 people in a one shot, and they want to play a power armor team. They want to do like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but robots. And I'm like, okay, so all of your armor is greenish and it looks, one has this weapon, that weapon, and now we have 3 or 4 guys in power armor. And that's okay, because, if you're not playing with a larger group, you're only playing with a small amount, they're going to need that extra boost just to be able to survive the tough fights. Yeah. So there's on the, let's say like the NG X9 Samson, it says size 3. So you, when you're wearing power armor, have to take into account the size rules from core. Correct. You do have to take into account for size rules, because you get a +2 bonus to size whenever your size is whenever your target is 2 sizes larger than you are. In this example, if you're size 1 and your target is size 3, you get a +2 to hit that one. It also works as a penalty in the opposite direction. If you're a size 3 dragon or a size 3 power armor and you're shooting at something that's a size 1 or smaller, you get a -2 penalty. So size is important. Well, at least that's what she tells me. Ba-doom-tsh. You're supposed to laugh right there. I was laughing, but I had my mic muted. Oh, yeah, man. Ladies and gentlemen, he'll catch on. He's doing just fine. He's still trying to figure out that first question about armor piercing and armor. I'm just trying to find out where the size rules are. I was just skimming through the book to see if I could refresh myself on them. But I think that they're under like the monster section, or toughness modifiers. So yeah, if you're in power armor, you get like bonuses. Somebody shoots you and you're in giant ass power armor. Sure. Yeah, page 133 of Savage World Deluxe. Yeah. So now all of a sudden you're like a super easy target to hit and stuff like that, which is kind of crazy. Well, it makes sense, right? If you're, if you're say a regular man in body armor and you've got a sniper rifle and you're shooting at a whale, it's gonna be a little harder to miss that one than it would be if you're shooting at a man. Because the size, right? If you're shooting at a house, if you're shooting at a glitter boy, a tank, any object that's slightly larger than you are, it's going to be easier to hit. But in the opposite way, if there's a battleship trying to hit one soldier on the beach, yeah, that's going to be tough to do, because you're using a lot bigger guns and he's really small. That's actually really cool. That's pretty slick. Now, depending on the kind of power armor that you're in is going to determine what actual weapons and stuff like that you can have. Of course. A good example is the power armor known as the Grease Monkey by Northern Gun. The Grease Monkey is a power armor that's made to be able to do repairs out on the battlefield and handle just about any repair job. It's got welding tools, liquid sealer, industrial sealant, containers for spare parts, oversized hard shell backpack, sophisticated diagnostic computer, yada, yada, yada. I mean, this thing's got hammers, drills, tools, cutters, all kinds of other stuff that you can do. It's not made to be a combat armor. It's more made to be a technician or a mechanic's armor. But because it is power armor, it does give you a lot of cool bonuses. And it does not give you any weapons. It only gives you a laser torch, which could be used as a weapon in melee combat, and a multi-tool, which could be used, or, multiple tools, a hammer or a drill that could be used in hand-to-hand. Other than that, that's it. There's no missiles, no guns, no lasers, no rail guns, no fancy plasma cannons, nothing like that. It gives you +2 bonus to repairs, a +1 bonus on any skill roll that involves electronics or mechanics. You get your size is 1, 8 MDC armor. It's pretty tough. +3 toughness in addition to that. Your strength, you get a strength bonus up to D12 +1. Your pace becomes 7. It has a flight pack, so it gives you a flight pace of 3. So you can it's probably a jump pack. You can probably do short jumps, climb 0. It's amphibious, which means it'll allow you to swim underwater with a pace of 6, which is pretty good. But that's it. There's no weapons on that one. But if you go to the very next entry with the Triax Super Trooper, you start looking at all the stuff that thing has, and this thing has 2 rocket launchers built into the shoulders, 2 rocket launchers built into the legs. That's 4 total. 3, what they call MA3s, they nicknamed them Mazies. These Mazies are hand charges. They're like claymores and grenades put together. They can be thrown or placed. You get a vibro sword that's built into your right arm, and because that's not enough, you get 2 laser torches built into each palm. So you can use those directly in hand-to-hand combat. The Super Trooper gives you +10 MDC armor, 2 toughness, and a strength D12 +4, and a pace of 7. And it does have jet boosters, because what power armor isn't complete without jet boosters that give you a 12-inch vertical and a 12-inch horizontal and a 6-inch vertical movement. Yeah, 2 totally different types of armor, and that's a lot of the same variation. Some allow you to move faster, some allow you to only jump and run, some allow you to fly, perpetually, or fly for 24 hours without overheating the engines. Some allow you lasers and mini missiles. Some give you rocket launchers. Some give you light rail guns, knuckle blades, forearm blades, laser torches. I mean, it runs the gambit. And this is just a couple of pages of them. There's books and books and books full of them in the old books and in some of the other books for the game.
Yeah, so there's literally like hundreds of different suits of each of these kinds of armor.
Oh, sure. Well, the manufacturers make sure they come out with Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, Series 11, and they all have different variations. And they can only be used in those combinations, or you have to have them custom built or have someone modify them for you. And sometimes that's more expensive than actually going and buying a full suit of armor, is having one custom built for you.
It's funny when you're reading off the rocket launchers and the mounted rocket launchers and the Mazies and the vibro sword and all that. I'm just like, oh man, I'm just picturing how many ways that I could kill somebody with this kind of suit. My brain is starting to hurt, Victor. We got one left to do. Robot.
Yeah,
armor.
we haven't even gotten to weapons yet. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to do weapons next week, but robot armor. Seriously?
Yeah, I told you, the math gets deep. The variations and the number of bonuses and penalties. I mean, think about it. You have to include range. You have to include visibility. So is there smoke? Is there rain? Is there debris in the air? Do you have a line of sight? Is there any cover? There's your vision. Your range, short, medium, long, extreme. You get all kinds of penalties and fun bonuses to that. Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? That's also scenery. Are you wearing armor? Is the armor MDC? What's the armor piercing of the weapon? How high did you roll for your damage roll? Let's figure all that math out. And then you start to get all the variabilities of, well, this railgun does 3d10. This railgun does 3d6. This railgun does 5d8. This guy has a laser rifle that does 2d4 plus 12. And this guy has a psi ability that does 3d6 plus 2.
That's insane.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Just ouch, like your mind explodes. And then on the next turn, everybody decides, well, that wasn't a good tactic. Let's all change weapons. Let's all change abilities. Let's all do that differently. And you start over and you do it again. The math can get up there. Yeah. Savage Rifts really pushes Savage Worlds beyond, I think, what it was built for. I'm not saying Savage Worlds can't do it. I think it does it the best. But it really makes all those exploding dice just go crazy. I've never rolled so many dice in my life when I play Savage Rifts using Savage Worlds.
Yeah, the thing too is, like, I find that when I'm GMing for a group, my pet peeve. This is almost like a GM pro tip. In a situation like Victor just explained, where you have to do all of this math, most of it boils down to you're going to shoot a rocket launcher at somebody. You should know what the rocket launcher does for damage and have that written down, plus any of your modifiers and all of that stuff in one nice little concise spot. So when it comes time for you to do your move, you don't have to go far or any farther than your character sheet. I find so often, even edges and stuff like that, it's almost like character sheets aren't big enough. Somebody needs to come out with a cool Savage Worlds like character sheet. Fantasy Grounds does it the best, in my opinion, because you can just drop edges right onto your character sheet and you'll always know what they do. But, you take people that just don't remember, say, like what rock and roll does, and they're always going back to the book to write it down. But they don't ever take the time to sort of scratch it onto their character sheet. So, anyways.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's kind of a GM rant and a really good pro player tip. One of the things that I always emphasize at the table, especially at my game table, if you have been playing role-playing games for more than a year, I will not calculate your bonuses and penalties for you. If you do not take the time to figure them out at the table and you don't know, okay, I have a -2 for range, a -3 for cover, and a -1 for vision. Is that correct, GM? Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, I'm going to roll with a -10 penalty. Here's my 3 dice, 38 plus 6, 48, 2, 3 rolls for this. Okay, I hit 2 wounds. Okay, and that sounds good to me. If you don't take the time to figure that out ahead of time, you're stuck in battle heaven because you're trying to figure out what gun you want to use and what trigger you want to pull next turn. And you lose a turn. Because I'm not going to take the time as a GM, and I love my players, don't get me wrong. I don't want this to come out like as if I'm a hater. But if you have the capacity to play role-playing games and the heart to want to do it, take the time to read the manual and figure out the math. Because at the game table is not the right time to do it.
I find that, or I should say, I found with my 5th edition group and stuff like that. D&D and spells. Unlike Savage Worlds, where you have Bolt, and Bolt covers a gambit of different trappings, so to speak.
Yep.
It's flavor. It's one spell.
The bolt is a bolt is a bolt, whether it's flaming, whether it's ice, or whether it's grease.
But
it's a bolt.
It's not like that in 5th edition. In 5th edition, you can...
Unfortunately.
You can cast a bolt and you have to save against it, or you can cast a bolt where you're attacking with it, or... You know what I mean? And it just goes on and on. It's like every spell has its own little unique way of going off, and you need to know so many of them, which is just ridiculous. But I find that this is where this sort of came up originally, is that in my 5th edition book or games or whatever, people would always be looking up spells. I'm like, write it down somewhere so you don't ever have to look it up again. You know what I mean? Like,
somebody a long time ago came up with these great things. They're called 3x5 cards.
Yeah.
And someone even got smarter. Somebody at Wizards of the Coast or some third-party company back in 3rd edition, like 15 years ago, came up with this product. It's called spell cards. And guess what? All the rules for every spell you have are on a card. If you want to play a wizard, either write them down on your character sheet, write them on a 3x5 card, or go out and buy the spell cards. Please. Your GM will love you for it. Because if you want to be the master of magic, act like it at the table. People should be asking you going, what does that lightning bolt do in damage again? 3d6, right off the top of your head. What does magic missile do? 2d4 per level. Whatever that stats are, what you should be able to have those readily, handily available, because that's what your character is doing. That's what your character is supposed to be, the master of magic. They don't ask the fighter to give a prayer to their god to be able to heal the guy who's dying. That's what the cleric does. But if the cleric doesn't know what the name of the god is and what the spell is, then how are you going to trust the cleric to do it? You might as well ask the fighter to do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's a touch of a mini rant, but it's, I get pooling the table for what does lightning bolt do, does anybody know kind of a thing. But it's almost like a pet peeve of mine when a magic user asks me what lightning bolt does for damage. It's like, I'm not playing a character. You know what I mean? You're playing the character. You should know these things.
I'll give you a good example. In Savage Rifts, and I see this almost every time players sit down to play the game. In Savage Rifts, the most common question that I get, and it's always from that one guy. And you know which guy I'm talking about when you hear the question.
Are you single?
No, not that guy.
Oh.
Although that does happen. The one guy that says, how much does the Glitter Boy boom gun do again? Like, I'm not playing the Glitter Boy. You are. You should know what page number that's written on. You should have that scribbled somewhere on your character sheet. But they don't figure that. And they fired that thing like 3 or 4 times already that night. They should know already. How many dice do I roll again? And they're not new players. They're just not taking time to prepare their actions, do the math ahead of time. I tell the guys it's just like baseball. This guy's batting, this guy's on deck, and this guy's in the dugout. The guy in the dugout should be figuring out what he needs to do 2 or 3 rounds from now. The guy that's on deck should be saying, all right, I'm firing this gun. This is my math. This is what I think the ranges and situations are going to be. I got my dice in my hand. I'm ready to go. The guy that's rolling, he's the one that's figuring out, did I do damage and I'm going to die this turn or not? That's the order of operations that everyone should be looking at. And the guy who's at the very end of the spectrum, on the low end of the initiative, he should be figuring out, going, what am I going to do if all of these guys fail? Am I going to ringtail? Am I going to hightail it out of here? What do? I need to pick up the glitter boy gun and fire that thing? What do I need to do? What do I need to figure out? Worst case scenario. A lot of people don't look at the game like that tactically. And the few times that I've had guys who can get their stuff together to figure that out, man, as a GM, those are the toughest games, because those become your best players. Yeah. Those become the guys that you hate to play with, but you can't wait to play with them every week, because they not only can play the game, but they challenge you at it. And I absolutely thrive in that kind of environment when I have guys that know what they're doing, that have put it together, that have combat tactics, like a SWAT team coming in, to take someone out or something. It just makes it so much more fun, especially when you throw a grenade in the middle of it all and they all freak out. That's the best kind of gaming to me.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, if you're not 100% sure, like what an edge does or what a skill does or something along those lines, and you don't want to take the time to write it all down, which is completely understandable, because some of them can be like a couple paragraphs long, at least take the time to put down the page number so that you can quickly find it. At the very least, page number so-and-so. Then you'll know exactly where it's at if it's overly complicated. Anyways, that said, rant off, robot armor, let's wrap it up. What do we got going on here?
All right, so robot armor is very similar to power armor, where the only difference is robot armors are considered vehicles in Savage Worlds, and they get a little bit of modifications. You just like power armor, you have to have the power armor jock edge. Yes, you have to have training. You have to have it in order to be able to use it. Otherwise, you get penalties. So with a robot, you need the robot armor jock edge. If you do not have that edge, you get a -2 penalty to all your skill rolls while you're piloting the robot armor. But the difference between robot armor and power armor is you actually have a cockpit. And in some cases, you can have a cockpit, a co-pilot, a gunner, and a couple of passengers, depending on the size of the robot. They're pretty much walking tanks, and you want to be able to take advantage of that as much as possible. But the cool thing about robot armors, besides the fact that you can take passengers with you, is that they can carry multiple weapons, and I mean like dual rail guns, dual mini missile launchers, dual light lasers, assault cannons, flaming, howl transmitter arrays, just all kinds of crazy stuff. And I look specifically at the Northern Guns Gunwolf, because that is one wicked looking armor. But the mouth and the head of that thing looks like a big werewolf, and it has a transmitter array built into it. It's kind of a special ability that gives it a large burst template centered on the Gunwolf, and anybody with that is within that template has to make a smarts roll or they get shaken if they fail. So that's kind of a cool weapon, but there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do, and those multiple weapons can be fired by you and or a gunner at different targets. What a lot of people don't realize is when you're in power armor, to shoot at 2 different targets means you have additional penalties besides the multi-action penalty. But if you're in a robot, well, now you have 2 people shooting. So the guy on your left that's your gunner or behind you can shoot the rail gun on your left shoulder to the tank on your left, but you can take the laser on your right shoulder and shoot the tank on your right, and neither one of you will get a multi-action penalty or get a multi-target penalty.
So would you play it that, let's say you got like a 6-man robot armor, and it's just one person at the table has this gigantic piece of machinery? Would you play it that it's actually controlled by 6 people and they would be like henchmen kind of a thing? Because the reason I'm asking is because here's the thing. If you're in this, let's say that your whole party is in one and each one of them is in a certain position, you're not going to incite the multi-action penalty if one person on their turn shoots, the flamethrower, and another guy on his turn shoots the rocket launcher, because that's their action. But right. If it was just one guy that had this suit and he had a bunch of henchmen, I could see him in the cockpit trying to call out, Johnny on deck 3, launch the missiles, and Timmy get the laser eyes fired, kind of a thing.
It depends on how you want to play it as the GM. I've done it a couple of ways. In most cases, there's usually a pilot and or co-pilot gunner in most robots. Some of them may have 2 gunners and a pilot, or maybe just the pilot. But either way, I usually allow the pilot to do multiple actions at multiple targets with a robot, but they take on the multi-action penalties because they're trying to do way too much stuff at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
If that means there's no one else in the cockpit with him, even though they can have a gunner, the seat's empty. No one else is there with him because for whatever reason, he's flying solo today. So if he tries to shoot at 2 different tanks with 2 different weapons and 2 different targets, he's going to take on multi-action penalties. It's going to be very difficult for him to do, especially because, well, it's a robot. There's a lot of buttons and other crap to switch on to help you. The combat computer can kick in and take some of those penalties and bonuses for you, but it's still going to be a tough roll. Now,
Gotcha.
if the player has put in the money, the time, and the effort to recruit a bunch of NPCs that are his teammates, they're not the player characters. They're just the gunner, Timmy, the engineer, whatever. They can help him out. I would allow that to some extent. If he's invested the time and money to be able to get those guys, train them, and do all the stuff, then I would allow him to be able to use all that stuff without the multi-action penalties. Or you can get some of the party members to jump in as gunners, and well, all they need to do is, you mean to hit this button? Yes. When you see the red light come on, hit the button and the computer does the rest. They could do that too without incurring the multi-action penalties, as long as the players, the NPCs, and the pilot all have the robot combat jock edge. If they do not have that, they can still jump in and try to press buttons, but they're going to get that big old -2 to all trait rolls, all skill rolls while in the armor.
Yeah, so I'm reading this one section here that says if a suit of robot armor suffers a wound, you got to make a roll or the vehicle falls. This replaces the out of control rules. Is the out of control rules something from original Rifts, or is that inside of this game?
No, that's from Savage Worlds.
Oh,
the out of control rules are from Savage Worlds, from the vehicle rules.
Yes, gotcha.
In the original deluxe book.
So
in this case, instead of rolling an out of control rule, making an out of control rule for piloting, driving, agility, or otherwise, you would roll on the critical hits table. And the critical hits table is on the top of page 85, and it has about a little bit more than half a dozen entries. So we'll just swing it from the lowest to highest. The lowest, it has an entry of scratch and dent. The attack merely scratches the paint, minor flesh wound, and there's no permanent damage. You didn't take any wounds. But the opposite of that, if you rolled a 12 on a 2d6, and that's how many dice you roll when you roll this table, the opposite of that is wrecked. The robot armor is wrecked and falls. Anything in between, you could have penalties to your controls because you get damage control. You get some chassis damage. Maybe the pilot got hurt and he's going to take some wounds. Maybe a weapon is destroyed and you're not allowed to use it anymore. Or maybe you take an engine hit, and so on and so forth. There's lots of different things that can happen whenever you go out of control or take a critical hit on a robot.
Yeah, so this NG V61 Gunwolf has a toughness of 35.
Yeah, you need to type that into Google and look and see what that looks like. Your jaw will drop.
Nice. So once it's got 17 in brackets, so you would literally have to hit this thing for 52?
Correct.
Points of damage.
Correct.
And then if you do 52 points of damage to this thing, it's going to suffer... Wait a second. Do you have to do
it's
4 more?
Suffer a roll. You have to do what?
4 points over 52? Because wouldn't 52 just be shaken?
Correct.
So you actually have to do 56?
You have to do 56 in order for it to suffer
1 wound.
Any kind of damage. Yep.
And then if you do that, then you roll on the critical hits.
Sure, but if you look at a lot of the weapons, especially some of the larger ones like missiles, mini missiles, and railguns, they have an armor piercing of like 6, 8. Like for example, an armor piercing grenade has an armor piercing of 8. So you shove an armor piercing grenade down its throat. Well, now you've knocked that number down to just below, I think, like 48 or 48 or 50, easily. You can easily take a couple of shots at it with a railgun, an Earthshaker cannon. Some of the Techno-Wizard device stuff, they'll have a couple of points of armor piercing. You'll be able to reduce that down a little bit, which is always nice. But try like
this,
dude. Like a heavy railgun has an armor piercing of 18.
So out of all of these, that you played or that you know, which one do you think is the coolest?
Oh, the robot armor. Oh man, I'm a big power and robot armor kind of guy. I love mecha. I would say I really like the Triax X1000 Ultimax, page 88. It has a handheld heavy railgun, a light laser, which is also built into the railgun, and 2 mini missile launchers. But this thing is just sick. It is one of the few robots that has propulsion jets and a force field built in.
That's crazy. This
Yeah,
stuff is so off the hook, man.
Yep. It's only 22 million credits, so save up your ducats to be able to get through that one.
How many leyline wizard armor kits would you have to get 20?
How many wizards do you have to kill? Well,
Right.
22 million is what you need. You get about a $250,000 for each combat armor, so you do the math, about 4,000.
Man, there's so much stuff here. There's no way we could go through all of this. That's really freaking sick and cool, dude.
This is why we're doing what we're doing, because there's so much stuff to talk about. I think a lot of people don't realize the depth of just this one little 140-page book that the SPF and the guys put out for the player's guide. There's a lot of fun stuff in here. You just got to start digging through all the pictures, digging through all the math. I really like the Triax, the Ultimax, that TX1000. That one's just an awesome armor. It's been around for a long time from the original books. Another combat armor that I think is pretty cool. Wow. I like the Hunter. They have a big old picture of that out there.
Yeah, I'm looking at that one, the X545 Super Hunter.
Yeah, the Super Hunter's cool. The regular Hunter's the one they have on the picture, but the Super Hunter is like the sniper version of that one. Really
What are the
awesome.
two black things that are coming out of his chest? Are they supposed to be, are those like dual linked medium ion cannons? Is that what those are? Like between the numbers?
Yes.
On page
between
88?
the numbers. Yep. That's the Super Hunter. Yeah, he has the 2 big old ion cannons in the middle of his chest right there. But you see all the little circles on his shoulders and on his knees and stuff? Those are all mini missile launchers.
Jesus.
They all pop open and mini missile launchers, mini missiles pop out of those. In the forearms, the shoulders, the lower legs, and because that's not cool enough, each forearm has a vibro sword built into it.
Wow.
And if you get people to get too close, because someone tries to, shank you from the back or through the groin or whatever, there's napalm flame throwers built into the ankles and lower legs.
Well, in my power armor, the groin is where my sweet ass nuclear power plant is. Huh? Ciao. Ciao.
I knew you'd come up with that one.
Ay. All right, Victor. Let's get into the fray and get out of here. We're done. Let's wrap this up. We'll do weapons next week because there's a lot of stuff that's going on inside of weapons.
Oh yeah, you think the math was bad there? Wait till we get into weapons and start talking about that.
Oh my God! All right, into the fray.
Oh, whoa, bloody hell. Oh man, I love this guy. Do we have to go yet? Yes? Oh, please. Of course we do. We've got work to do. Please, can we stay just a little bit longer? Stop it, Jeffrey. Oh, right, come on back through the rifts there. Fine. Anyhow.
Well, the sweet sound of that rift opening means it's time to pack up, portal out, take us out with some contact info, Commander Victor Keen. That's old video game, Commander Keen, but I made you Commander Victor Keen.
I love it. I'm going to make up that character for the character catalog. Sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, you can reach us at the Murder Hobo Show at gmail.com or get us on Twitter if you can keep it under 140 characters at the Murder Hobo Show. Or, of course, over on the Google Plus page, Murder Hobo Show under the Nerds International banner. Or you can reach out to myself directly at the Google Plus Savage Rifts page. You'll see me all over the place. You'll see me in a bunch of different forums. Come check us out. I'm sure you'll love the community. I know I do.
Be sure to swing by the Murder Hobo Show on Podbean and check out the show notes for some links to cool, creative people, places, and things, because that's where I'm storing them. I've actually mentioned this previously, that I will no longer be deleting show notes. I'm just going to continually add the new notes to the old notes so that you got some notes.
That's going to be a lot of notes, Gary. Crit Hit 2018 is happening this weekend. And drum roll, Gary.
What?
It is titled Murder Hobo on Holiday.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. So if you guys are coming out to be a part of the Murder Hobo crowd this weekend, please come out and see me at the con. Stop by and say, hey, you're the Savage Rifter. This way I'll have a clue of where I know you or where I might know you from. So come stop by. We're going to be playing some games, going to be doing some stuff that might be legal, might be a little illegal. But either way, game on.
Yeah, you know, take full advantage of murder hoboing it up, because sometimes it's just fun to shoot the guy in the face because he didn't give you the cabbage. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just fun to murder hobo. That said, don't forget to catch our other podcast, Threats, Streets, and Timers, where we talk about ICRPG, the index card role-playing game, because like we said previously, it's amazing how much information you can put on an index card. Suck it, Jamie Pearson. Tune in next time. We're going to have another action-packed show, as we will be tackling more on the gear section of this player's guide, because there is so much material in this amazing universal setting. Thanks, everyone. We're out. Victor, I love you. You're my favorite. I hope you have so much fun at your convention. Frank's going to be there,
I'll kill
right?
someone for you. Oh, yeah. He's on my hit list. Yep.
What is Frank? Frank is doing his deal with the... this is what he was building all that stuff for, isn't it? Are you in Frank's game that he brought all that stuff for? He Carl Kiesler, this sucker.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go crash his game. His game actually sold out like in an hour that they posted the tickets to be able to get out to reserve your spot on it. I do know that every game has 5 or 6 players, and they only reserve like 4 or 5 players. So at least someone who doesn't get to game or buys the ticket that day or whatever will still get a chance to come in to find at least one game or so. Hopefully, I hear it's sold out, so it'll be a pretty good show. I think it'll be fun to see. I can't wait to play in it. Yeah.
Are you taking your cell phone for pictures?
Oh yeah, I'm going to be taking me some pictures. I'm going to take some pictures. I'm going to do some stuff at the table. I'm going to take some index card role-playing game, see if I can do a couple of pickup games. I know there's going to be a judge there, a GM that's going to be playing Savage Rifts. I went and talked to Alan Barr from Tiny D6. He created, what's it called? I have one of the books here. He created Tiny Fantasy, Tiny Wastelands, Tiny Mecha, Tiny Supers, and it's a really game. It's almost like index card role playing game in terms of how much rules. It's real rules light, like 2d6, 3d6 kind of game. Really, really awesome. Really cool writer. He's been around for a long time, but really like this stuff. And he's going to be debuting a lot of those games there. One of them is still in Kickstarter. I think it's Tiny Supers that's still in Kickstarter. Tiny Wastelands, I think, is ready to come to get delivered or start to pay out from that Kickstarter. So it'll be fun to see. I know that a lot of those games are being played, but there's going to be a slew of stuff all weekend. I think it starts like at 10 a.m. Friday morning and it goes through late night, early morning, Sunday night, Monday morning. So
nice.
We'll see how long that goes. Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you live close enough that you can just sort of drive there, right? And then drive home?
Yeah, about 45 minutes.
Well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's all highway. All highway. I turn off the highway, get on the hotel, and get off the highway and drive a mile or two in my house, and I'm good.
Nice. Well, have fun at your Murder Hobo convention playing with your Tiny D.
Hack and slash, buddy. Hack and slash. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to seeing, to getting to meet a lot of people in the industry that I haven't talked to in a while or that I haven't met face to face since last year. It's just, you get busy. You don't see them all the time or whatever. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. Play some games with them, see if I can convince them all to do ICRPG or something.
It sounds like you're going to do some kind of weird, crazy drug. See if I can't convince him to do ICRPG.
It is a weird, crazy drug. Do you not know the Pusher Hankerin? The guy who built the thing?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes,
tell
sir.
me he doesn't look like a meth addict on the side.
Nice. Peace out. Have fun.
No worries, man. Have a good night.
The Murder Hobo Show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and for educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo Show, copyright 2017, all rights reserved.